All right. I'm not sure if I'm live yet. If not, it'll be kicking in any second. So I'm just going to wait a moment and then we'll see if it starts. We'll wait a moment. Okay, I'm not sure if we're on yet or any second. Give me a moment, guys. Okay, I think, oh, here we go. Okay. If anybody happened to get on before I thought it was going live, sorry about the delay. Hey, everyone, welcome. It's another live surprise. I didn't really count on doing this so soon after my debut live, celebrating 5 years of this channel the other day. But this topic just was kind of nagging at me. If you saw the cover, it's just called what I call it, Twinkle Twinkle Cat Fiddle. So big galactic vibes coming through. Also things about the constellations. So I put a little subtitle in there saying "Find Your Star." So we're going to do that today. And whether anybody's here for the live or you're watching this on the replay, everything I talk about will still apply, and you can still have fun and find your star with me. So I actually, before I get into the topic, and I'll explain it really well, as you may have been able to guess from the title with the Twinkle Twinkle Cat Fiddle, we're going to look at a couple of nursery rhymes and how they connect in with the stars and why that is significant. So what I wanted to do, I've got the backdrop here behind me, is all folklore and nursery rhymes kind of stuff, fairy tale setting. Behind me, if anyone can recognize that, it is the Green Dragon Tavern from Lord of the Rings. Then I also have a little prop with me today. Since I couldn't find a cat or a fiddle to join me, this is a fun little thing if you haven't seen it before. It's called a concertina, and I found it in an antique shop, and I had to get it. Have I learned how to play it? No. All I know is it's a squeezed Bach form of a musical instrument. It reminded me of kind of folklore and fairy tales and little, kind of shoemaker's cottage behind me too, kind of vibes. And so anyway, have I learned this, how to play it? Nope. But it's so much fun. So left hand, I guess I'm mirrored. Left hand is over here. It's the lower notes. And the right hand is the higher notes. So anyway, we'll just do a little. Okay, so that's the beginning. We're going to kick off the beginning of this with a little bit of accordion again, kind of the vibes of fairy tale and all that good stuff. So let's hop right into this. The cover, we'll start off with the cat and fiddle part. So of course, I am alluding to the little nursery rhyme that most of us know, at least in the Western, if you're in the States. And I'll just read it straight up. Now I'm going to read it. There are 3 versions of it that substitute one word. And actually that one word is very important, but I'll just read the most traditional version. Is, hey, diddle, diddle, the cat and the fiddle, the cow jumped over the moon. The little dog laughed to see such sport, and the dish ran away with the spoon. Now this says ran after the dish, ran after the spoon. Now the key word that changes, and looking at different versions of this little nursery rhyme, is the little dog laughed to see such sport. So one version says the little dog laughed to see such fun. And another version says the little dog laughed to see such craft. So that gets very interesting. So I'm just going to show, here's a little image. Hopefully it's not too glaring. Just some of the images that they show with those little nursery rhymes. Now, for me, I did look up, took a little trip in history, of what we're told anyways, history, to see where the origin, where did this little fairy tale come from? Not fairy tale, a little nursery rhyme. And, it's a little bit mixed. It doesn't just come out and say what it is or isn't. It just gives a couple of possibilities. So one is they say, oh, maybe it was like a song in an old pub called The Cat and Fiddle. and, different like pub games were happening, and the dish and spoon went off the table kind of thing. But I wasn't really, vibing with that. To me, some dated around maybe the 1700s. It was penned more formally in the 1800s, but some even say that it might have, originated even like in the 1600s, 1500s. And to me, that's a little more resonant. And the reason why I'm saying it is the moment I saw that, when I looked at it anew as an adult and looked at the nursery rhyme, I'm like, oh, heck no, of course they're talking about the constellations. And if you looked at my little cover, my little thumbnail there, I'll bring it up here in front of the camera too. This is, okay, I got to do this reverse world. So, of course, for me, it's Leo. The constellation Leo is the cat. The lyra is also called a fiddle, apparently. So, of course, constellation Lyra would be the fiddle. Then the cow would be the constellation of Taurus. The moon called Luna, just for as an aside. Then we have the little dog would be Canis Minor, because there's also a Canis Major. So little dog would be Canis Minor. They make that distinction. And then the dish running away with the spoon would be the Big Dipper as the big dish, and the spoon would be the ladle going into the dish. So for me, after looking at this, I can't see it any other way other than constellations. And I think any other kind of, hinting at, oh, it was a pub, scene that was the beginning. I'm not really, clicking in with that. So anyway, we're going to talk about the constellations a bit. So just to recap, those figures in the Hey Diddle Diddle, we have, I just want to say what the brightest stars are in those constellations. So for Leo, it would be Regulus. Lyra would be Vega. Taurus would be Aldebaran. And then Luna, I'm just going to throw in there as the craft part, the interpretation of one of the Hey Diddle Diddle rhymes used to see such craft. And then we have the Canis Minor is Procyon, and the Big Dipper is Alioth, and Little Dipper, the brightest star, would be Polaris. So anyway, those are actually a few of the brightest stars out of those constellations, or the brightest stars out of those constellations. Actually, the one in Taurus, they also kind of, I think, nickname it as like the eye of the bull, which is the Aldebaran. So one thing I also just want to say too about that nursery rhyme is all of those, reason why I think it has very strong support of the origin being, of course, it's teaching little ones about constellations, is that it's also all of those constellations are seen in the springtime sky. And on top of it, we also have another famous little song, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. So obviously there is stuff encoded into some of those nursery rhymes, and I believe, with purpose, so that little ones do grow up not forgetting, some key things about these constellations, which may or may not start to be taught in quote unquote schools. So, down the line. And so it's just kind of a collective memory to kind of bookmark it and put it somewhere. And it happened to be in these little nursery rhymes with the little songs. Now, an unfortunate thing of time and how words and etymologies develop over time is the word diddle, unfortunately, in slang means something not so great. Well, if it's a low vibe use of it. So it means intimacy in slang. So it's kind of hard to say the title these days, especially when it's meant to be for little kids. But back then, supposedly diddle meant to kind of waste some time in an idle way, right? And now, unfortunately, it's become something in slang moving into the direction of ditty and all of that stuff. So that's rather unfortunate, but we'll keep the clean version, of that word in mind. Okay, so also let's see. So yeah, the meaning changed, and that's a big thing to really look at some of these texts and really look at what we're teaching our children. So some nursery rhymes and little songs maybe are worth repeating, and fun little kind of community or common. So we have a common culture and knowledge for the kids. But some of these nursery rhymes and fairy tales, I think, now's a really good time to really look with a good eye on some of them because of what the true meanings really are. Not that we just keep repeating them over and over and teach kids and not even kind of know why. What I find interesting is as you look up, the Hey Diddle Diddle Cat and the Fiddle, nursery rhyme, it classifies it as a nonsensical rhyme, like it just means nothing. Well, we do see there is reason in the rhyme, and especially when we're looking, at the constellations as the meaning, which again, I can't see it any other way. And I'll just hold up a bigger version. I'm doing this old school prop ways, but here's the cat. If you can see that, the cat with Regulus. And then I'm going to give a link, and I'll put it in later after this show is over. But there's a link to a site that gives all of the key constellations and the brightest stars. And so, so here's the Fiddle, Lyra, and Vega. Let me go through these first. Okay, Taurus, Aldebaran, and Canis Minor, our little laughing dog with Procyon. Oops, let me get that out of the glare. And then we've got the bears, Little Dipper and Big Dipper, Ursa Major and Ursa Minor. And we've got that Alioth and the North Star Polaris. So anyway, just food for thought and fun to look into that, right? Now, let me get to classifications of the stars. We're going to get into the link. I don't know anything about this company. I'm not promoting anything, but it's called sleepopolis.com. So if you do a search, and I'll put it in the description after this whole thing is over. But if you look under that website and you just put 88 constellations, you're going to see where we're going to go next after I talk about Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. And then we'll go looking at finding your star. And I've got 88 constellations to kind of breeze over. We're also going to be, as we get into those constellations, looking at all the brightest stars. We're also going to maybe need to refer to our Greek alphabet, because you'll find under this classification of 88 constellations, which, again, I never want to give a shout out to this agency, but it's, NASA, the acronyms. They only recognize supposedly 88 constellations. Of course, there are never-ending constellations if we know that the universe is ever expanding and ever in a state of creation. But 88, of course, is also the number of keys on a keyboard, on a piano. And there are all kinds of other things tied into the number 88, like Mercury and the god Mercury and all this other stuff. But we won't go there on this talk. But for right now, let's go back to Twinkle Twinkle, and then we'll go actually looking at actual stars, and we'll do a fun little exercise there. So Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, I think most of us know the basic, the first stanza, but I don't know if most of you know. I didn't until just diving into it now. There are 5 stanzas to that little rhyme or poem. So I'm just pulling it up. If you see me looking down, I'm just looking on my little handheld device here so I don't lose track of anything. So we know the first stanza, I think most of us do, is Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, how I wonder what you are, up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. And we're going to continue on with the rest of them. So when the blazing sun is gone, when he nothing shines upon, then you show your little light, twinkle, twinkle all the night. Then the traveler in the dark thanks you for your tiny spark. He could not see which way to go if you did not twinkle so. In the dark blue sky you keep, and often through my curtains peep, for you never shut your eye till the sun is in the sky. 'Tis your bright and tiny spark lights the traveler in the dark, though I know not what you are, twinkle, twinkle, little star. So that's a lot about pondering about what a star is. And, again, I'm just kind of revisiting this as an adult, that, we perhaps sing it to our children or sang it as a child without looking deeper, maybe, into this. So I'm not going to take a real deep look, but just, again, throwing things out as food for thought. And I'm going to cross-reference some things that kind of popped up on my little radar to talk about for this topic. So this one is, again, one of those things, trying to find what is the origin story of this. Some attribute it to being first published in 1806 in a body of work called Rhymes for the Nursery by Jane Taylor and her sister Anne as a poem. They say, though, that the melody that we all know, again, if you grew up in the United States, they're saying that it's from this is one source, and I'll put my sources down in the description box below too after this is all over. But it says the melody is from the 1761 French tune called Vous dirai-je maman, or oh, shall I tell you, mama? And that's also, they say it's usually played in C major when used for Twinkle Twinkle, and that's also a tune that repeats in other children's songs such as Baa Baa Black Sheep. Okay, so anyway, it's an interesting topic because Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, I mean, in that first stanza, which most of us only know that one, seems to be a pretty big deal, saying, I wonder what you are. And they just kind of left there, open ended. Nobody comes back and answers what it is. So this is just a little question right now. Okay, what do you think stars really are? Okay, we hear that, oh, the level of brightness depends on how far away and light years away they are and how intense they're burning. And if they're burning out or, fading or starting to supernova or whatever, that's one thing. But there's something deeper there. So in certain cultures, I know certain indigenous cultures, it's said that a star shows up when a child is born and it fades out when that person transitions off, at the end of the life here on this planet. Different movies, well, whether it's predictive programming or hint drops. One that comes to mind is the Dragonheart series. I think they're like 5 movies or more. I can't remember which one it was. Spoiler alert, just put it on mute for a second if you don't want to know. But there's a scene where one of the dragons dies, and then he didn't mind because he knew that his soul was going to go up and become an actual star in the constellation Draco. So other cultures might also, support that the ancestors don't just come from star systems like the Pleiades or whatever as star people, but the stars themselves are actual beings and ancestors. Or in Greek mythology, some believed, okay, that's the gods, the actual stars. And when there's a shooting star coming down to the planet, there's a more tangible, direct connection between the gods and us. So it's very interesting. For me personally, when you get a little more esoteric with things, when we pass or transition off this planet, this plane, or little plane, I support a toroidal Earth theory, and I think all forms of Earth are possible. That's a whole other story. But and depending on what dimension, if they're overlays and all kinds of things, people have probably different memories of what the shape of the Earth is or isn't. But besides that, I know there's an inner Earth, so I have a different, interpretation of that. But the thing is that I do believe as we transition off this earth, we do get a choice whether we want to return to this earth playground or if we want to go off to other planets, if we want to go back to source, or heck, even if you wanted to become a star and play around with what does that feel like being for a while. So I think it's very possible that some of the actual stars we see can be actual beings. There's also talk even about planets themselves being actual sentient beings, or beings within these planets. So we get into some trippy kind of territory, I know, but I just want to, kind of unleash this floodgate of thought here, as again, food for thought of what do you think? What do you not just think with your head, but what do you feel about it? There's a very real thing that we go outside and look up at the stars, and what do? A lot of people wish upon a star. Who doesn't do that at least one point in your life as a little child, or even adults I've heard say, oh, you say, oh, what are you doing? Oh, I'm wishing on a star, at one point or another, I think most of us, if not all of us, if not, it's no big deal, have at least made some kind of silent wish, or even aloud. So what are you wishing to? Is it just some cosmic force or just the divine in general that we believe is behind these stars? Or is there some kind of deeper meaning and a deeper kind of intuitive level or memory level that we know these can actually be ancestors? Or who knows, maybe it's even another version of us up there and it seems very familiar, right? Anyway, there's a lot to it. So I just want to kind of drop that. I was just pondering some of these things when I was revisiting some of these nursery rhymes, they call them, right? And little songs that they've made out of them. Okay, so I think that's enough for that. And I don't see anybody in chat, so I'm going to keep going. And if anybody wants to hop in and chat and bring up a new topic and drop it and go, or, we can shift gears and talk really about anything and everything. But for now, I'm going to just cover one more thing and go through the list of constellations. And I think it's important to go ahead and actually literally go down the list. And what I'm going to do, when I said in the little description of what this was going to be about, what I want to do is just read off the name of the constellation, maybe a tiny little description about it, and also the brightest star in that constellation. And so the intuitive work for you all out there, if you want to play along, is as far as finding your star. Maybe you already know one that you've always had a, affinity toward, or you've had a favorite constellation and then you happen to know and be able to name the star in it. Then even so, you might get something out of this. But otherwise, if you have no idea about any of the constellations, I think most of us know Orion, because of the belt, the 3 stars there that are really prominent. But there's so many other constellations. So, and maybe you have an affinity toward a certain animal. So, there's swan, crow, dogs, cats, anything and everything. So at this point, let me get into it. I did bring up the Greek alphabet because there are, when I read this list, there are some stars that are called more ancient ones, or ones, kind of from the beginning, and that we know of in history, and also ones that are newer, so showing up in the 1600s and newer. And those tend to have a classification with a Greek letter in front of it, so alpha or beta, maybe gamma. And so anyway, I think what I'll do is intuitively go through the list and just call out ones that jump out at me, and let's see how that goes. And if nothing else, I want this kind of marked in a show on my channel, because I think it's important information. And I myself have not really ever really looked at this until, this theme was kind of nagging at me to come online for a live here. So I'm just going to read through and let's see how it goes. If it gets too cumbersome, I'll skip ahead on some of these. So we're going to start with, there's like 4 little pages I have screenshotted on my phone, and let's get into it. So we have Andromeda, known as a Greek princess, and the brightest star is, and I may pronounce them wrong, so this is, again, maybe a fun exercise too for you to go ahead and look up some of these things as well. Looks like Alpharots, and my vision is going a little blurry because I was on the device a little too long, so forgive me if I struggle with some of these. I think I'm going to hop over some of the ones that are newer. So there's one called, for example, Antlia, and that came around, that was named in 1756. Apus in 1598. Well, I guess that's not so new, is it? I don't know how they classify some of these as ancients or not, but maybe you can look up that threshold and how they define that on your own as a nice little homework there. So we have Aquarius, the water bearer, and it says also a wine. Let's see, a wine waiter to the gods. I haven't heard that before. And the brightest star there is called something like Sadalsud, if I read that right. Then we have Aquila, and let's see if that one's considered ancient. Yes. And the brightest star there is Altair. And you know what? Let's keep going. So we also have constellation Ara, and we have Aries, the ram. Yeah, I'm going to just kind of hit and miss some of these things. We have Auriga. We have, this is good to try to pronounce. It's Bootes. So it looks like Boetis. And that's known as the herdsman or son of Zeus, and the star there, the brightest star is Arcturus. Calum, and let's see, constellation. Let me see this one. Hang on. It's cutting off a bit here. Okay. Camelopardalis. So it's a giraffe, and that one was named, it looks like, in 1612. Cancer, the crab, that it says bit Hercules' foot. And again, some of these, okay, if it's got the Greek letter, I don't want to slow down. But for example, this one, the brightest star of Cancer, is supposedly beta, and then it's like CNC. So some of these I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce, so I'm not going to bring them up if I don't know. And again, I'll put the link to what I'm looking at in the description area below, and you can have fun going in and diving in detail too on your own. Then we have the Canis Venatici, and it's the hunting dogs of Boötis, it looks like, Boötis. Then we have Canis Major, and that says it's Crion's greater hunting dog, and the brightest star is Sirius. Then Canis Minor, Orion's lesser hunting dog, and that was Procyon. Let's see. Okay. Then we have Capricornus, and sea goat associated with the god of the countryside. It says, I'm not sure about that definition, but again, some of these will be something to invite you to take a look at further on your own. And, it's just meant to be a springboard and maybe get some interest into looking at these things. And I think the brightest star there is called Delta Cap. Yeah, again, it's kind of, I'd have to toggle between the Greek alphabet and some of these constellations. So then we have Carina, which it says is the keel of the Argo. We have Cassiopeia, Queen Cassiopeia, mother of Andromeda. And that one looks like it is Gamma Cass as the brightest star. Centaurus, the wise centaur. Regal Centaurus is the brightest star there. Cepheus, Ethiopian king. And looks like the brightest star is Alderamin. All right, let's go to another page. And sorry if this is a little tedious, but couldn't figure out a better way to narrow this down. I think what I'll do is, again, I'll just call out the basic description, and if a star, the brightest star of the constellation, jumps out at me, then I'll go ahead and say it. So we have, it looks like Cetus is the sea monster that attacked Cepheus's territory. We have, looks like Chameleon, Alpha Cha, if I read that right. Circinius, Draft and Compass, Alpha CIR, Alpha Sur. Columba is a dove, and the brightest star looks like Fact, PHACT. Then there's Coma Berenices, the hair of Queen Berenice of Egypt, and that looks like that's a Beta Com as the brightest star. Corona Australis, Southern Crown. Corona Borealis, Northern Crown. Corvus, the crow sent by Apollo in search of water. Crater, let's see. A cup clutched by a crow in search of water. Crux, Southern Cross. The brightest star there is A Crux. All right, let's go on. We have Cygnus as the swan, or Zeus in disguise. The brightest star is Deneb. Delphinus is the dolphin, messenger of Poseidon. Brightest star is Rotanev. Dorado is a swordfish. Alpha Dor is the brightest star. Draco, dragon that guards the golden apple tree. And it looks like, sorry, I'm straining here, but can't blow it up bigger. I think it's El Tanin is the brightest star. Then we have Aculeus is the little horse. Brightest star is Catalpha. All right, we're moving along. We've got Eridanus, the mythical river. Fornax, the furnace. Gemini, the mythical twins Castor and Pollux. The brightest star in that is Pollux. Grus is the crane, and it looks like the brightest star is Alnair. Hercules, the greatest hero in Greek mythology, so they say here, and the brightest star there is Corniphoros. All right, we're almost done with this row. Okay, then we have, oh boy, Horologium, and that's the pendulum clock constellation. Hydra, the multi-headed water snake, slain by Hercules. The brightest star in that constellation is Alphard, and that's spelled Alphard. Hydrus, the lesser water snake. We have Indus, Indian. That one's, they said they were named in 1598. Then we have Lacerta, and that's brightest star is Alpha Lac, and that's a lizard. Okay, so a lot of these I've never heard of. I don't know about you, but some of the main ones, like the ones I've mentioned from the little rhyme, we know those, and also some of the other ones, like probably Cygnus, people have heard of the swan and all of that. So now we have Leo, the lion of Nemea, slain by Hercules. We talked about that already. The brightest star is Regulus. Leo Minor, the lion cub. Apparently they named that in 1687. Lepus, the hare chased by Orion's dogs. The brightest star there is Arneb. Libra, balance. Actually, the brightest star there, it looks like German as Subhaneshmali, something like that. Okay, Lupus is the wolf constellation. Alpha Lup is the brightest star. Lynx, Alpha Lin, brightest star there. Lyra, lyre played by musician Orpheus, brightest star Vega, as we talked about, and sometimes it's known as the fiddle. Okay, Mensa, Table Mountain, South Africa. That one was named in 1756. Then we have Microscopium, microscope, and I'm just going to say when that was named because that sounds like a funny name of a constellation. It's 1756. Okay, Monoceros, the unicorn. That one was apparently named in 1612. Musca, fly. Alpha Mus is the brightest star. Norma, carpenter square. Then we have octants, is octant, navigational instrument. Yeah, a lot of these are now being named in the 1700s or so, 1600s, 1500s maybe. Then we have Ophiuchus is the serpent bearer, god of medicine. And it looks like Ras Al Haig is the brightest star. Orion Hunter, son of Poseidon. Regal is the brightest star in that one. Okay, then we have Pavo, peacock. That one came about in 1598, at least named so. Then we have Pegasus, the winged horse. That's an ancient one. And Anif is the brightest star there. Perseus, husband of Andromeda, slayer of Medusa. And the brightest star is, looks like Mirfak, if I got that right. Phoenix, the mythical bird of rebirth constellation. Anka is the brightest star there. Pictor, painter's easel, Alpha Pic. That one was named in 1756. Pisces, two fish swimming opposite each other. Then we have Pisces austrinus, the southern fish. Then we have, and that one, the brightest star is called Formalhaut. Pupus, the poop deck of Argo. Okay, that's an interesting one. The brightest star there is Neos, and that was named in 1756. Pyxis, the compass. We have a reticulum, and that is a net of crosshairs and a telescope. It's also showing the date of 1756. Okay, so we'll move along, and we only have a little bit more to go. And anyway, okay, we have Sagitta, arrow used by Apollo to kill Cyclops, and we have Sagittarius, the centaur archer. We have Scorpius, scorpion, killer of Orion. The brightest star there is Antares. Sculptor, we have Alpha Psi on that one. That's another 1756 one. Scutum is a shield honoring King John III Sobieski of Poland, and that's showing a date of 1684. Yeah, some of these, it's news to me. Serpens, the serpent's head. Sextans is sextant instrument for measuring star positions. Then we have Taurus, the bull, Zeus in disguise, and we talked about that already. The brightest star there is Aldebaran. Then we have Telescopium, telescope. The brightest star there is Alpha Tel. Triangulum, triangulum, yes, triangle. Beta Tri is the brightest star. Let's see. All right, then we have Triangulum Australe, the southern triangle. Atria is the brightest star there. We have Tucana, toucan. We have Constellation Ursa Major, the Great Bear, or Callisto, lover of Zeus. Alioth is the brightest star there. Ursa Minor, Lesser Bear. Nymph that nursed Zeus as an infant, brightest star Polaris. Then we have Vela, sail of the ship Argo. Okay, and there's a few more. Virgo, virgin goddess of justice. The brightest star there is Spica. We have Volans, flying fish. And we have Vulpecula, fox. Okay, so I'm hopefully got them all. I may have missed something here or there, but again, I'll put the link in to see if anybody's interested in that. And hopefully that wasn't too boring. And if it was, you could have always just, jumped out. Nothing, no worries about staying here if you don't want to. Okay. Anyway, now I just, so just out of all of that I read, maybe there's something that, piqued your curiosity, or you thought, hey, let me, find a star constellation. What would be meaningful to me? And again, it's one thing to kind of look at these with your eyes, these little charts. I like the ones, I'm going to try to pull up an example. I like the ones that do, trying to see what's going to show up on the screen. I guess Taurus. I like the ones where, when you look online, You can find the line diagram, that, you just see the connect the dots, so to speak, forming the constellation. But I also like the ones, where they kind of ghost in, the actual picture of the animal. And there's beautiful ones that show, complete circle. I didn't print it out. I'll put it in description later, links to these things. They have a whole circle of all the constellations together with the animals and everything. It gets a little crowded in there. So anyway, if you haven't really thought about it, tonight's the night of a full moon, an eclipse, a lunar eclipse. It's going to be coming up, I think, around 2 a.m. here where I'm at. And that's another thing too. You might want to go out if you can, if it's, physically safe for you to do it. Go out and look up real quick. There's supposed to be a reddish cast to it. I don't know if that you'll actually see it wherever you are. Hopefully it's not too cloudy. But yeah, just in celebration of kind of looking up. And of course, that's the whole impetus and start of my whole channel here, was to look up at various things: cloak and craft, constellations, moon, lunar things, solar eclipses, all sorts of things. So anyway, it's a good night to do that if you are, like I said, in a good position to be able to do that. Okay, I think that's all I wanted to talk about with some of these things. Maybe this little chat also can be something that inspires you to look at other nursery rhymes, other things that might be involving constellations or loose or direct references to them. So for example, I was looking through too, when I was going to be talking about like little nursery rhymes, fairy tales, I came across this book. I forgot I even had it. And I didn't know about this coming, living in the United States. Oh, hi there, Sharon over at Lake Superior, Skywatcher, Nature Lover. Thanks for joining in. Anyway, this book kind of jumped out at me. Being in the United States, I never heard of it. I never grew up with these little fairy tales, but I know people in England and Australia, I'm guessing New Zealand as well. You probably know Enid Blyton, and I know she writes about the faraway tree and adventures with kids. And this one just happens to be called The Enchanted Wood from 1939. But what caught my attention, and it goes along with this theme here, is, again, I didn't grow up with this, but I know this is a common cultural reference if you're from the countries I spoke of and beyond. But I wanted to bring it up because it says on the back, actually, if I can read it, it's more dim here than I thought. Here, I can use a little light. It says, climb the faraway tree and discover magical lands with Moonface, Saucepan Man, and Silky the Fairy. So I'm just, laughing because we've got a Moonface reference and a saucepan. And again, did she draw from, the Hey Diddle Diddle, Cat and the Fiddle little nursery rhyme, for some of those characters? So if you've got, Moonface, and then, you've got the pan. Who knows? But anyway, it's really embedded in so many of our cultures. So I wanted to bring it up. And anyway, so I think that'll be it for now. Unless anybody wants to hop in with any other things you want to talk about, it can be connected with or without nursery rhymes and constellations. And otherwise, just wanted to give the live feature another try here and connect in different ways. So I will sign off for now. As always, tremendous peace and love to you all, and best wishes. And till next time, Lavender Sky Panther.